Media proudly present to you the Lone Gunman Podcast with your host, Rob Clark, where research comes to shine and myths don't die. Stay tuned, be right there.
Time, Deputy Constable Seymour Weitzman had joined us. And Weitzman was a gun buff. He had a sporting goods store at one time. He was very good with weapons. And he said it looked like a Mauser. And he walked over to Fritz. And Captain Fritz was holding the rifle up in the air. And I was standing next to Weitzman, who was standing next to Fritz. And we weren't any more than 6 or 8 inches from the rifle, and stamped right on the barrel of the rifle was 7.65 Mauser. And that's when Weitzman said it is a Mauser and pointed to the 7.65 Mauser stamp on the barrel.
There's an intonation to that statement that it should mean something.
Well, the shells we found came from a 6.5 Italian rifle.
You mean those three cartridges?
The two don't relate.
3 cartridges that were
found at the southeast corner.
In the southeast corner.
Came from a 6.5 Italian carbine.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is episode number 92 of the Lone Gunman Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Clark, and with me today is my friend Carmine Savastano, author of the upcoming book, Two Princes and a King, and proprietor of the Neapolis Media Group. How you doing, Carmine? Welcome back.
Thanks, Rob. I'm doing pretty good. Glad to be here.
Awesome. It's going to be a Neapolis couple of weeks here. So I think I got Chuck coming on next week, so that's good.
Great. I'll definitely be tuning in.
And for everybody to find your stuff, where is the best place to go, real quick?
I send them, if you want to find out about the Neapolis Media Group, it's neamg.com. If you want to find out about the book, Two Princes and a King, it's a concise review of the death of JFK, MLK, and RFK, you can find that at tpac.com, tpaak.com.
And hopefully coming soon to...
Yes. As soon as, I promise, as soon as the digital designs and everything are done, it'll be there.
Awesome. Winter. Is that winter in Australia or winter in America?
Exactly, yeah.
It's always winter somewhere.
Exactly.
All right, well, today I got Carmine on here, and we are going to be talking about the weapons used to crucify Lee Harvey Oswald that day. Of course, the Mannlicher Carcano and the Smith & Wesson 38 Special Pistol. And we're going to start off talking about a little bit about the Dodd Committee. And now, Thomas Dodd was, of course, a senator. He was in charge of many Senate subcommittees, a few of which applied to the Fair Play for Cuba Committee and the interstate sale of mail order weapons and other stuff. And so, Carmine, let's kick it into Senator Dodd, and then we'll get into the rifle and the pistol.
Okay. Dodd, basically, relevant to our conversation, I'd say the first time Dodd becomes within the periphery of the JFK case is, pre-assassination. So 1959, he was a member of the Senate Subcommittee to investigate the administration of internal security laws of the Judiciary Committee. So basically, he conducted fact-finding missions. Usually he was a member, sometimes he presided, that Congress was using to identify threats to American internal security. So the committee at one point in 59 accepted testimony from a name that most of us are familiar with, Pedro Luis Diaz Lanz.
Oh, yeah.
And Lanz is the former chief of the Cuban Air Force. And later on were aligned with anti-Batista groups prior to joining Castro. So they eventually, once they joined Castro, Diaz-Lanz was later removed from his job when he refused to lead an invasion against the Dominican Republic because he saw that as expanding the power of the communists, which was against what he and his father believed.
Yeah, I believe he was pegged by the National Enquirer one year as being the assassin. So.
Yeah, his name, like many, Sturgis and some of the others, who actually, they did commit crimes, but none of the crimes are linked with substantial evidence to JFK. I mean, you could get them for smuggling, arms shipments, illegal weapons transactions, breaching the integrity of borders. But, just JFK is, unless someone has some evidence that no one else has seen, you really can't blame the JFK. There's plenty of crimes to go around for blame, but that's not one of them. Right, and I wonder if Jim Fetzer had him hiding anywhere shooting. Exactly. One of his 15 assassins, the small army of assassins.
8 to 10 shots fired, 6 kill teams.
Yeah.
What?
People. It's kind of like the people who say it was an entire official group. That's impossible. It's too many people. It has to be a small compartmentalized group to get away with it. Otherwise, we would have discovered who it was by now. You can't have 50 people operating simultaneously. Beyond the considerations of just how impossible that would be just to get them to operate well simultaneously. Oh, I know, but I'm sure he has an excuse for everything, and they had radios or whatever. We're referring to the excellent. Well, I wouldn't call it an interview, but I think a circus show would be a more better accurate description of Chuck Ocelli's show, his Big 4-Hour Spectacular on American Freedom Radio this past Sunday evening. Starring Carmine and Chuck, and John Hankey and Jim Fetzer, and I would encourage everyone out there. I put a link up for with the last episode I put up for everybody to go hear it. Go hear it, and you will see for yourself that given enough rope, people do hang themselves. So definitely check it out. But anyway, back to Dodd. So they interviewed Diaz-Lanz. Diaz-Lanz becomes an anti-Castro refugee who associates with agency operations. He tells him he used his pilot skills to aid Castro forces before it was used in the communism. Communists had infiltrated, named several officials, talks about what a ruthless dictator Castro was. And then he later associates with Sturgis and others and it's actually Sturgis that informs the CIA about Diaz-Lanz's plans.
Nice.
So, there wasn't even any loyalty among the mercenaries and the exiles that were working together.
No.
So, back to Dodd. So, in 61, Dodd participated in the Senate Judicial Subcommittee on Internal Security, and they had a hearing on the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, who most people have heard of is associated with Oswald. Well, when you actually go into the files, a lot of people already know that that isn't the case. Oswald was never actually a member of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. There was no chapter in New Orleans. He had fabricated all of that to try to get some sort of communist veneer. Right. Now, an interesting footnote. I believe if folks have heard of Harry Dean, if you haven't, Google him. I think he was working undercover. I think it was for the Dodd Committee, infiltrating the Fair Play for Cuba Committee in Chicago and L.A. But I don't know enough about that story to go on any further than that. I'll say it's been a while since I've looked into it, but for some reason that sticks out of my head as just an interesting aside. Yeah, no, I'd say too, another one from the Chicago area that I just remembered, one of the things I talk about in the book is Richard Kane, who is a subordinate of Sam Giancana, who also was a police officer, an agency informant, an FBI informant, and a corrupt police officer. He sent memos to the CIA stating that Oswald and the Fair Play for Cuba Committee in Chicago were trying to assassinate President Kennedy. So I don't know if he was trying to lend credence to a setup or how that plays into it. But yeah, it seems like a lot of people were trying to implicate the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. It wasn't a militant group, first of all. It was more of a political media group for Cuba and for helping communists.
Yeah, just getting the word out there, spreading the word about, supporting Cuba and Castro and free trade, I think, was the, because we had embargoed that Cuba, of course, has the Bay of Pigs and, kind of hurt, I think it was the sugar economy. And, of course, cigars. It was just, it's all about opening trade, fair play, fair free trade, with Cuba. I believe was their goal.
Yeah, I think, they're trying to roll back a lot of the harm that had come after the, diplomatic relations were broken off.
Yeah, saying, hey, it's not so bad,
Yeah, and it makes no sense whatsoever that group of all the groups, there were plenty of other groups that were much more militant, and actually you could make links between them directly and the KGB and them directly and the Communist Party that would be more likely to undertake these things. I think they were a scapegoat.
Right.
I think the FPCC was just a convenient group to blame.
And easy to infiltrate.
Yeah, definitely. So some people still claim, despite the evidence proving Oswald was never a member, that, the FPCC was, he was a member, despite all the facts regarding it. And that there was a New Orleans chapter, despite that there never was one. Even Marina Oswald said, when questioned, that she knew that no such group existed, that she was just helping Oswald. So Senator Dodd attempted to interview Mr. Richard Berlin Tussey, who was a former member of the leading FPCC committee who had set up operations in Cleveland. Tussey's answers, every answer to the Dodd committee, included refusing to testify as not to incriminate himself under the Fifth Amendment and the First Amendment right to free speech.
Shocker.
Yeah, and I mean, this was consistent. When you go through the files, it's just consistent. Every person does that. I think, half of it is, of course, they don't want to admit that they are either a member of the Communist Party or that they're helping in communist activities, but especially after the Red Scare.
Well, yeah. They didn't want to get blacklisted.
Execution of the Rosenbergs.
Exactly. Yeah, that, and they didn't want to get blacklisted or lose their job or lose their friends, family, and be
Which still
shamed.
probably happened in some cases, just
Well,
for
yeah.
having been called.
Well, yeah.
So, Tussey answers the Dodd committee, he wouldn't testify to incriminate himself, and then his ex-wife offers all the same answers under questioning. Like, basically, no member of the FPCC will cooperate. The only person that ends up cooperating with them, and they identify Tussey as the chairman of the Cleveland FPCC branch, and his wife is a member, was a police department subversive division member. His name was Unvary, was his last name, the officer. And he testified at one meeting that he had attended with his partner. There was also a police confidential informant and a reporter present unknown to the FPCC members.
Was his name Jack Ruby?
I know, different reporter, I think.
Oh, okay.
But, FPCC member named Rosen challenged the subcommittee's jurisdiction, the right to investigate, and that the inquiry served no legislative purpose. And all his objections were overruled, which wasn't unexpected.
Again,
so that was basically their encounter with the FPCC. So Dodd, I'm sure, as we can all imagine, was a vigorous opponent of communism. He was also a former FBI member, a Nuremberg trial prosecutor. He was pro-Vietnam, and he had supported Johnson in 1960, which is an interesting thing.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, all those views line up with the, of course, everything that Kennedy was opposed to. But
yep. So Dodd. Now here's where it goes a little bit different, which you would not expect of somebody who was so pro-Vietnam, pro-Johnson, seemingly pro-war, and from the FBI. He was the lone wolf senator pressing for gun reform in '63. He was the only one.
Right.
So basically, everybody else was ignoring him when he had the Senate Judiciary Committee. This is the portion that might be most relevant to what you want to talk about, and that's the Juvenile Delinquency Subcommittee, and that was to inspect mail-order guns because they said that children and the mentally unbalanced could order guns through the mail with ease.
Right, and he may have just been ahead of his time or ahead of the game, I should say, because since he did that. The regulations on firearms in federally and also states, have been increased phenomenally. And with all these lone wolf shooters and all these shootings going on now, they're trying to clamp down on gun rights even further. But we still have the Second Amendment, so good luck.
Yeah. Well, I think like all things, there's got to be a balance.
Right.
You can't make it too hard, but I'm personally support background checks. I think that some of the stuff Dodd was suggesting back then should have been done then.
Yeah, I mean, it was too easy to get a gun. I mean, you could have went in any gun shop and just been, oh yeah, I like that, thank you, and walk out with it.
Exactly.
Or you could sit on your couch and order one from home and have it delivered, to your post office, and it wasn't that hard to fake identification back then. It wasn't as regulated as it is now. But that's interesting.
Yeah. So Dodd he gets in this assignment. He tests firearms regulations, by having people actually try the mail system, and like you said, two of the companies that are involved with the JFK case, checking how they would send things through the mail. And what was revealed was it was easy. It was easy that anyone could order through the U.S. postal system with minimal problems.
Yeah, I mean, even Alec Hidell. I mean, it's so easy. I mean, that's what interested me about this is the correlation of what Oswald was supposedly doing, using an alias to obtain these weapons from two of these gun companies that were under investigation by the Dodd Committee for mail order, fraud, basically.
Yeah, and it shows you that, not to say that it couldn't have been Oswald. It could have been Oswald. He could have been, based on how, where your position is, he could have been tricked into doing it. He could have been told to do it, that he was going to use it for something else, that maybe he was going to be part of a mission to go against, communists or other people. It doesn't, I just don't think people should automatically jump to the fact that either he did it or he didn't do it. It's probably somewhere in the middle. He might have been manipulated to do it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, he could have been chosen to do it. Said, hey, the Senate subcommittees were investigating these gun companies. We'd like you to, as your mission, to try to obtain a rifle and a pistol from two different places, this place and that place, and use a fake name. See if you can get them sent to you and obtain them. And that's not even to say that he kept them after they were sent. And there's problems, and we'll get into the problems with actually obtaining both the rifle and the pistol, from this post office box in his name, when these weapons were sent to Alec Hidell's name. And we'll get into all that, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, it revealed how easy the problem, how easy someone could get it through the mail, which also, like we were just saying, it could infer too that someone else ordered them using the name Hidell, gave them to Oswald without him having knowledge of them being ordered with his alias. There's many sorts of ways it could have occurred, but the guns got to him, and it's strange that all of this official actions are going on concerning these specific businesses that he supposedly used in obtaining these weapons.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% convinced that these weapons got to him. I mean, we have absolutely zero proof whatsoever that he even picked these weapons up from the post office. Zero evidence, no receipts, no nothing.
There's definitely reasonable doubt about a lot of the exhibits, unfortunately, that are used in some of these official investigations.
Yeah, I think John Armstrong's done good work on it. Gil Jesus has done good work on the rifle, and tracking it from when it got to this country, and as it's made its way to Klein's, and then supposedly made its way to Oswald, and then how the payments were kind of screwy, and the money order wasn't where it's supposed to be, and there's no stamps on it, the correct bank stamps. There's all kinds of problems with the rifle and the pistol as far as that goes. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's going to take a researcher that specializes in that area of the case. They're going to have to go to a postal inspector or someone, and that's, I think, how we'll get more definitive confirmation, just so we can
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta think for a second, people, that when this rifle was shipped, okay, it was shipped to Lee Harvey Oswald's post office box in a different name, okay, in a 5-foot-long carton that did not fit in his post office box. Now, Oswald was somewhat of a pack rat, I guess you could say, at least just from observing a lot of his possessions that he had in his rooming house and at the Paynes. He had a 2-year-old cereal box top. He had old receipts. He had old check stubs. He had, he kept everything pretty much. I don't know why, but yet we don't have, the card that was put in his post office box that, hey, we have a delivery for Alec Hidell or A. Hidell, and you need to see the postmaster to get your carton, this, that, and the other. There's all kinds of problems when you start looking at dates and, where the order was sent, what post office box or mailbox that, the order was sent from. I think it was it was way far away from Jagger Child Stovall, too far for walking distance, and there was mailboxes that were closer, and he was supposed to be at work at the time, but it just problem after problem.
And yeah, it also stands to reason that it would have been much easier, instead of making a paper trail that they could use later against you, to just walk into a store that was located in Dallas and buy a gun and ammunition.
Yeah, and when it comes to the pistol, Carmine, that's exactly what he told Fritz under interrogation that he did. He said he bought the pistol in Fort Worth at a store that he couldn't remember the name of. Or he bought a pistol. I shouldn't say the pistol. I'll say a pistol.
Yeah.
And he could have been referring to a pistol that he had bought before and sold to his brother. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Well, as we know from Fritz's notes and other problems with the investigation, that wasn't the most bang-up job done by the DVD.
No. But, at least looking back on the interview notes, you can kind of see where Oswald pretty much told him the truth. He said, look, I lived in Russia, for a certain amount of time. I'm a Marxist. I don't know of any specific instance in that interrogation that he blatantly lied to the police while in custody. At least not to my knowledge. I mean, of course he might have denied certain things, but he might not have done certain things. So, why he would lie about this, I don't know, about getting the pistol in Fort Worth. Because he told him I bought it 7 months ago at a store.
Questionable instances throughout the whole way of him obtaining the weapons, supposedly using the weapons, and then you get into the problems with he never had any confirmed firing practice, which means it's going to take a lot more time than the commission was willing to give him to make the shots. If he doesn't have firing practice, then, practice is the minimum requirement to get this done. Even with the first shot miss, which is usually the shot everybody hits with, because that's the one you get to aim for.
Right, but you got to remember, he also broke the rifle down and then assembled it again, which would also, it would also throw off the accuracy of the weapon. Mm-hmm. Because your sight gets all. I think that sight that was on there was all janky, and they had to shim it, and it was just, I don't know how he could have made them shots.
Definitely go into more about the Carcano. I'll wrap up Dodd real quick.
Okay.
So basically, we had him. He questioned and was present for Diaz Lanz questioning. They had the FPCC committee. They had the committee where they had the police informant. He had Dodd then pressing for gun reform and then show how easy it could be ordered through the mail. Now, Dodd made a bill that died that year in Congress in '63 that would bar criminals and the mentally deficient from owning guns. On November 4th, 4th, 63, he presided over the Senate Judiciary Committee hearings on internal security again. And during the questioning of the reporter, it was revealed that this reporter was working with anti-Castro commando groups and for a news expose. That they had lived and rented a home financed by the reporter from Haiti and stored weapons, ammunition, and explosives there as well. And eventually the arms were seized by customs agents in 1965. So Dodd then comments about the FPCC's importance on November 23rd, the day after President Kennedy was assassinated. Yet in the days, the supposed how powerful he had, but the FPCC was, they were going out of business. Its lifespan was brief, actually, and it was attributed to the general anti-Castro sentiment in America, especially after President Kennedy's death. And then you got also considering prior congressional hearings, including Dodd's, that exposed the FPCC as likely connections to communism through Castro funding it through his United Nations delegation. So I think that these factors, combined with the horrific press that the group had received when Oswald's false claim linked them, by the FPCC's leader, V.T. Lee, stated the group was dead with no plans to reorganize, and by 64 in April, it was dissolved.
Right. And whether you think either wittingly or unwittingly that what the assassination did and what blaming it on Oswald and these mail order weapons did, and the fact that they termed him as a lone nut, a crazy person who obtained these weapons through the mail, he pretty much bolstered Dodd's accusations and lended support to him, whether it was warranted or not, for his his investigation. I mean, he said, he could have said, look, this crazy guy got these mail order weapons, we need to do something about it. And that's how reform happens. There's a reason, that things get reformed, and normally they don't fix things until they're broken. And this would have been perfect for Dodd to take to him and say, look what happened. It got our president killed, and we need to do something about this now.
Yeah, and as the years went on, Dodd became more and more of a supporter of even fringe exiles, like when officials arrested Orlando Bosch, who was later linked to, I believe, one of the guys linked to the Cubana bombing in the 70s.
Yeah.
Or the late 60s, yeah. Well, after the arrest, a Bosch supporter named Jose Salazar stated he would complain to Senator Thomas Dodd of the event.
Yeah, now it's odd to me that Dodd has this big interest in these anti-Castro Cubans. And, of course, you throw Lee Oswald into the mix. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he could have had contact with Lee Oswald. As being one of these guys that came back from Russia, and, if he saw what he was doing in New Orleans, or thought that he could use him, to his benefit, been in contact with him, in early in 63.
Yeah, an exile group that actually referred to him was the Movimiento Unidad Revolucionaria, or the UR, and they spoke highly of aiding Senator Thomas Dodd work on establishing a Cuban government in exile in the U.S. So Dodd was pushing for that too in the mid 60s. That we helped fund a Cuban government in exile to oppose Castro. Right.
Yeah. And this is all Thomas Dodd. You got him tied to the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. You got him tied to mail order weapons. You got him tied to anti-Castro Cubans, and trying to set up a government in exile here. So there you have Mr. Thomas Dodd. I mean, there's some interesting connections there, Carmine.
Yeah, and well, his son, I believe Christopher Dodd's still serving, or he might have just recently left Congress, but his son was a senator for many years as well.
Of course he was. Once you're in, you're in.
People, a lot of times. Okay, so the Carcano.
The Mauser.
We've already covered.
Yeah.
So they say. What?
What?
Yes.
There were 5 weapons found in the schoolbook depository. All of them with Mac Wallace's fingerprints on them.
Exactly. So Fetzer would say. So the Manliger Carcano, in my estimation, based on the research was an average at best surplus weapon. So, a run-of-the-mill, older model, out of service for the military weapon. And I think that the flaws are of primary importance. Like you were saying earlier about the scope. The scope was misaligned. It required metal shims to compensate, which might have forced them to rely on the iron sights. That the scope was not even used.
Right.
We got the weapon sling used to steady the grip as a makeshift pistol holster strap. The firing pin is rusty, and the weapon is determined obsolete by the Italian military years prior, before it's being sold surplus. And some of the guns were modified. They were cut down so that they would be able to fire a cheaper type of ammunition. And before the sale was complete and it was shipped over here, and improper adjustments actually caused the death of a few people from explosions inside the gun barrel.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it could have got the job done, but we're not talking about, we're not talking about a Johnson 30-06 here, but it could have got the job done if it was, in decent working order.
Yeah, if the person had had some sufficient practice with it, if they
Sure.
knew how to operate because, some of the problems are the bolt's going to recycle slower because of the safety feature on the weapon trigger. The trigger mechanism required additional pressure and time to operate, and this is time Oswald is without. They need to have it done. People always say, it could have been done this many seconds, and, the expert firers were able to do it in that many seconds. Yes, but they were practiced experts.
Right.
Oswald, there's no evidence he ever fired the gun. He might have played with the bolt in New Orleans and done things like that, but that's not firing the gun. It's not using it under real conditions where you will have to compensate and know what to do. So now add to all of that the pressure of what they're supposedly alleging he's doing, that he is allegedly executing the head of state of the United States with a weapon that he's never even had firing practice with, in a plot that supposedly he created in 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, while he's hiding in a damp corner, that somebody had just left from, where he's got to put this thing together real quick, and the president's coming.
Without tools.
Yeah, without tools. The president's running late, but he doesn't know that. So.
And you got a flooring crew working on the same floor at the same time.
Yeah, you don't know when anybody's going to walk in there at any time for any reason. Yeah, ballsy.
Seems, and that's totally out of character for him.
Yeah, and be calm, cool, and collected.
And consider that he couldn't make a mistake when he's lived a life full of them.
Yeah, when you stop and think, when you stop and think, man, that for him to pull this off and walk out of that building, do you know how much shit would have had to go just perfect?
Mm-hmm.
The timing of this, the timing of that, the shot, the escape. It's just insane when you think about it. How he was supposed to do this and walk right out of there, and mission accomplished.
And that everything would fall to his favor.
Yeah, not one thing went against him, not one.
So we have all those problems with the gun, and the unconsidered safety feature on the trigger mechanism that makes it a lot harder and requires some practice that he doesn't demonstrably have, that no one's been able to prove all these years that he even had firing practice.
Well,
so he can't operate the weapon as quickly as it should be, and then, as you were saying earlier, then we have on top of all that the Mauser myth that gets thrown in with it.
Yeah, we had Garland Slack, saying that he was shooting at the sports drone rifle range.
Yeah.
But
and that turned out to be, not him.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Woods too. He had the father and the son saying that they saw, but the Carcano that they saw was shooting fire out of the front.
Right.
And the guy was actually picking up his shells afterwards and hitting his targets, which is not, a lot of people too, they like to talk about how Oswald was a sharpshooter. Well, yeah, he was a sharpshooter in 1956.
Yeah.
By the time he got out, he was only a marksman, so you could see that without regular practice, his shooting skills were degrading. Then when he went to Russia, he only used shotguns. You weren't allowed to have a rifle there, so he hasn't had any time for rifle practice over there. He gets back here, he's never seen with the rifle except playing with the bolt in New Orleans. No one's been able to prove he's had any practice, so this is the guy that's going to supposedly make these shots.
Yep, bullshit.
this was actually reported and repeated by the DPD. So it's not unreasonable that some people for a while would believe that. But the problem is when you get down to looking at the evidence, it wasn't a Mauser. Because we have, first of all, people need to realize that a Mauser, the Carcano was actually called the Mauser Provinciano. It was a mode of the Mauser. The Carcano was like a rip-off copy of the Mauser.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that has to be the most misidentified weapon in the history of mankind. I mean, and the DPD must have been just so inefficient. That rifle was described as a Japanese rifle. It was described as a .303 British Enfield rifle. It was described as a Mauser. But it's a Carcano.
Yep.
When it's stamped right on the goddamn barrel, made in Italy. I mean, come on.
And, you know, I mean, people that they didn't want, they also have to understand that most of the people initially encountering the weapon never even handled it. You know, they never did an inspection on it. It was just passed in front of them. People are going all over the place. The president has just been murdered. But you know, the only official document containing the word Mauser, which was often repeated by Mark Lane, someone who likes to push the Mauser myth, is that the CIA had a file with the word Mauser. And that is true. They did use the word Mauser because they had got missed report from the DPD, but all the traits of the Carcano were there. It has all the traits of the Carcano, it has the links of the Carcano, and they used the word Mauser because they were misinformed. And this is not the CIA hiding something, because they screwed up a bunch of different things. You know, they made reports of Oswald and saying they have photos of Oswald, and they never did in Mexico City. So it's not like they didn't mess things up.
Yeah, I mean, a good correlation is you know, reports of where the shots came from initially. You had reports from the 4th floor, the 2nd floor, the 3rd floor, the 5th floor, the 7th floor, the 6th floor. You know, and you had, I forgot what I was going to say, but... just a lot of speculation, basically, is I think what you're getting. There's a ton of speculation. Yeah, and, you know, where people were, I guess, very unsure of the facts at that point. You know, they were very much relying on... people that didn't really know what they were talking about and just relaying the information.
Yeah, it was second-hand, third-hand information, which is fine. You know, we're never going to have second or third-hand information that's going to be, you know, a perfect representation of what occurred. But, you know, people also need to consider that it requires a plot too large. How many members of the DPD really are they going to involve in a plot? I mean, if you don't want to get caught, you don't have a bunch of extraneous members to your plot, and these guys don't need to know anything. It was easy for them to screw up all on their own. They didn't need any help.
Yeah, I mean, if there was...
have to be something nefarious.
Yeah, if there was another rifle found in that building, they could have easily had another officer get it out, and nobody would have ever known. I mean, it's not uncommon to see officers carrying rifles or shotguns or guns in particular. You know, they could have got another rifle out of that building with no fanfare whatsoever, and probably not seen by a whole lot of people, or even suspected, you know. So the fact that there's, you know, blatantly going to be 2 rifles found with a bunch of witnesses is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and we also have the Alea film, you know, and Alea took the pictures, you know, less than a minute or so many seconds after they had just gotten in there when no one else would have had access, and that shows the Carcano. You know, people try to do their own version of it or flip it around or change it and say that it's a Mauser, but it's not. It's a Carcano.
Right.
You know, all members of the DPD admitted to never inspect, except for the ones that handled it, to never inspecting the weapon closely. Most of them didn't handle it. And I think that's reasonable with all the other things, including the similarity of the 2 guns, with why the misidentification occurred. You know, and people say that Roger Craig and his claim of a Mauser is more compelling, but it's not when you stack it up against the evidence. And in Craig's first interview with Mark Lane for the Garrison inquiry, Craig never mentions the Mauser. It develops later with Lane's film feeding the fire. You know, if it was such an important thing, it would have been mentioned in his reports for Garrison's investigation.
Exactly. And you know what I wish people would have been asked back then, or if they would have reported it, is whether or not there was a distinct air of gunpowder, you know, a smell of gunpowder on the 6th floor. Or if they'd, you know, sniff tested the rifle to see if it had recently been fired. We don't have any of those. I mean, you never hear any officer reporting, "Oh man, we went up to the 6th floor. You could smell the gunpowder everywhere," because there wasn't a lot of windows open on the 6th floor. There was a few, but that gunpowder would have, the smell would have hung in the air for quite some time.
Yeah, no, there's unfortunately, there's a dearth of information I think that was lost just because it was improper handling. We've still got the arguments going on over Oswald's fingerprints when those were obtained off of the weapon.
Right.
Why did the DPD somehow, with lesser means, find these things prior, and then the FBI lab, which had far more advanced technological services available, was unable to find any of it?
Yeah.
And that the prints were of no use by them.
Right. Well, apparently, I was reading the book First Day Evidence. Is very good to actually see what they say, our fingerprints all over this rifle, around the trigger guard, but they were, I guess they were so faint that they couldn't lift them, and they put tape over them, and it was sent to the FBI like that, but the FBI couldn't pull them off the gun. I don't know if they didn't dust them first before they put the tape on it to protect them, or what the hell happened. But yeah, it's just Keystone Cop stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think that it's necessarily that the entire DPD was horrendous. They did some decent portions of investigation, but it was just there was no communication a lot of times between the higher ups and the street level cops who were actually undertaking the thing. When we've talked to Chuck about some of the cops he's interviewed from the DPD, 2 or 3 people were signing their names to documents that they weren't even there for, that just wanted to be included in the record as having been at that historical event. You got the rookies getting told to do the report when they weren't even there the whole time.
Yeah, and you got forensic criminology at its infancy. Really, we're talking about 52 years ago. I mean, a lot of these techniques were very, very basic. Even fingerprinting and analysis and all this stuff and that stuff, and then the nitrate test. Very basic stuff.
Still trying to rely on the nitrate test, and we know that that's not reliable now.
Right.
So, I definitely agree. I think that, there were just so many problems that they were unaccounted for. Then you added the pressure of the situation. And I think that every official group, from some of the files I read about the FBI, the only reason that Siebert and O'Neill were at Kennedy's autopsy was because Hoover assigned them there, and they didn't even have jurisdiction. A lot of these official groups were just jockeying to be the one to try to solve the case. They wanted the credit for solving the case, but none of them had jurisdiction.
Oh, yeah, it was I was watching the movie JFK the other night. Like I always try to watch it on the 22nd, just for just to remind myself of things. And watching the scene in the autopsy room there, there's like 20 or 30 people. You got military people, doctors everywhere, FBI people, Secret Service. It's just a cluster F,
Oh yeah, and that's people. That's why I think a lot of times too. I definitely agree that there was a massive suppression of evidence, and I definitely agree that there were officials who were complicit in cover. We know from not only the things that have come out in the last 10 years, but a reminder was that Politico article and other articles by other researchers where it shows there was a cover-up. It was admitted in private files, of course. When we know that Hoover lied repeatedly. Yeah. We know that McCone lied. We know Johnson lied. So there was a cover-up. They called it benign. I would disagree with that. But that means that with that established, it is far less improbable that a conspiracy occurred. It's more probable now. Because why would you be doing such a... they had a lot of illegal operations that they wanted to keep hidden that were likely peripheral to what occurred. But it occurred in such a massive scale that how can you not think some of the relevant evidence was destroyed or hidden?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the inefficiency of the investigation was covered up as well. Just so they wouldn't look so foolish and amateurish, because Hoover is he always got his man, and
or so he claimed.
Yeah, and if they didn't have evidence against you, they'd make it. which is
some cases, yes.
which is quite possible, of course, when it comes to these weapons. I think it's suspect to me how, the FBI shows up at Klein's, can't find a receipt, can't find anything. So then they take the microfiche back to Washington, and suddenly they find the Oswald order form on the microfiche. But like I said, there's just problems. And I'll tell you, John Armstrong, Gil Jesus, and now David Josephs is really starting to dig into this rifle and the pistol, and they're doing great work on it. So I'll put up links for everybody to go check out and read more about it from all of these guys, so you can see for yourself the problems,
Yeah, I think that, and these are just, the problems with the Carcano and, the pistol, and they're just two of many problems. And that's largely, I think people think, of course there's going to be fringe people on both sides who have automatically determined Oswald is, in their opinion, guilty or not guilty. And I think it's unlikely. I think he's going to be somewhere in the middle. If you look at all the evidence, it's a gray area that we have to get more specific with by doing more research and pulling up more of this evidence that's been out there, but no one's ever actually seen because there's millions of files to cover.
Exactly. So is that about it for the Carcano, Carmine?
Yeah, I would say that we covered that fairly well in the problems with the Carcano.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Carmine. So let's take a look at the pistol now. And a lot of what I'm going to be talking about here is going to be coming directly from David Joseph's new article that can be found over at ctka.net. And it's part 3 in his The Evidence is a Conspiracy series, and this focuses on the pistol. And the reason that I've been looking at the pistol is my scenario for the Tippit shooting. Because for those who don't know, I'm of the belief that Larry Crayford is the one that actually killed Tippit. And the point of contention in this theory, and I'll admit that it is a slight problem, but one that I don't think can be overcame, is, of course, the pistol. If Crayford did it, how did he get the pistol? Or if this is even Oswald's pistol, I don't know. Because there's lots of problems, of course, with the provenance of it. And much like the Carcano, they tried to prove that, of course, that Oswald ordered and obtained the pistol. There's problems with that. We don't have any way to prove that Oswald purchased ammunition for this pistol, or the Carcano, for that matter. That Oswald obtained, of course, the pistol in Dallas, and he had to have taken it with him to New Orleans, and then he would have had to have brought it back to Dallas. Did he? And we have reports that, at least from one book that I know of, he had a pistol in Mexico that he pulled out at the Russian consulate. So did he carry this pistol everywhere he went? Or what did he do with it when he didn't? Marina didn't know anything about the pistol. The bullets, as we're going to see, now this is the first I've heard of this. The bullets that they supposedly recovered from the pocket of Lee Oswald all show signs of having been stored in an ammo belt. Okay. There's very distinct markings that ammo belts make on bullets. They kind of rub the sheen off in certain areas. Much like those worn by policemen in the early 60s. Not so much like banditos. Like, I don't think Oswald had an ammo belt, and the bullets and shells of different manufacturers don't match up in terms of the number of each type. There was 2 distinct manufacturers, I think, for the bullets recovered from the pistol.
Yeah, it was Remington, Peters, and Western cartridges.
Yeah. And there's also problems with the provenance, the chain of custody for the pistol, which is where my hope lies in all this, as far as being able to say, okay, here's what happened. But and this of course involves the DPD officers that arrested Oswald at the theater, and exactly what happened to the pistol after they got back to headquarters. And of course, it was said that, I think Fritz said it under oath to the Warren Commission, that they searched Oswald when they arrested him. Why wouldn't you? I mean, he could have had another gun in his pocket, for Christ's sakes, or a knife or something. But the arresting officer said that they didn't search him because they were in a rush to get him out of there, and he was already in handcuffs. But somebody in handcuffs can still reach in their back pocket if their hands are behind their back and pull a knife out and stab somebody, or if they had another gun in the back of their pants, like a lot of people put one, right in your butt crack there. He could have pulled it out and shot to the right, to the left, and got out of there. So it makes no sense when they say that they didn't search him in the theater. If they didn't, then there's more ineptitude on the DPD's part. But these shells first show up, I think, before his first lineup around 4:30. They searched him before they took him down to the show up, and this is when they supposedly found the other bullets and the bus transfer. But the Seaport Traders place, because once again, like the rifle, the gun that Oswald ordered is not the one that he was sent. He actually ordered 38 ST.W.2-inch BBL. I think that means a 38. I don't know what the abbreviation is, supposed to be, but he ended up getting a Smith & Wesson 38 special with a 2-inch barrel commando version. And of course, it was supposedly ordered by A.J. Hidell. Now, when you order a mail order weapon, okay, you're supposed to have a witness to sign this form that the person ordering the weapon has never been convicted of a felony or a crime or violent exceeding 1 year. And his witness, it looks to be somebody by the name of either J.F. or D.F. Drittal, D-R-I-T-T-A-L. Now, I don't know, I've never heard that name before. I've never seen Oswald use that name before for anything. But now the Seaport Traders, right? Now, when they send the gun, they sent it to his post office box. Now, this would be like UPS in modern day. This would be like UPS delivering a package to your P.O. box, which they don't do. They would deliver it to your address. And back then, okay, this thing was COD. I think he sent a deposit of $10, which left a balance of $19.95 to be paid in cash. And he actually ended up not having to pay the shipping and handling fees of $1. What was it? $1.27, I think it was. So essentially, Railway Express, who is the shipper, shipped this gun for free, if we're to believe this. And a little background on the Railway Express. It was not part of the post office. It was a national monopoly set up by the federal government in 1917 and allowed to use the existing railroad infrastructure like UPS uses the roads today. Railway Express was owned by in conglomeration with 86 railroads in proportion to the express traffic on their lines. No one railroad or group of railroads had control of the agency. So basically, it was just like, like they said, UPS using the roads today. Well, this Railway Express was owned by pretty much all the railroads who profited off of it and used their trains to deliver packages and mail. Now, so Oswald got his pistol without having to pay, shipping and handling charges. He was never charged. There's no proof. We don't have the receipt that he paid his COD. We don't have a card that was put in his post office box saying, hey, Mr. Hidell, your package is here. We need you to come sign for it, because he would have had to sign for it because he would have had to pay for it. Now, Railway Express would have wanted to get paid, not the post office. It wouldn't have been up to the post office to pay Railway Express. It would have been up to A. Hidell, who ordered this rifle. There's yet another thing that doesn't make sense about this, Carmine.
And yeah, there's a lot of reason to believe that a company is not going to pick up anything. I've never known of any sort of company to want to pay for anything that they're not supposed to pay for.
Exactly. And like I said, Oswald actually made out on this deal, because I think the gun that he ordered was $29.95.
Well, financially he made out, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, the gun he ordered, I think, was $29.95, and the gun they sent him was worth $39.95. So he actually got a better gun at a cheaper price.
Yeah, it's strange that they just wouldn't send him, like rain check or something till they had the gun back in stock, rather than giving him a better gun in both instances.
Yeah, and like I said before, Oswald kept all of his stubs and receipts and little papers and all kinds of stuff for all kinds of stuff. But yet nothing related to the guns, nothing related to the, Railway Express or the post office. He didn't keep any of that. So it's weird that he didn't. Now,
yeah, it definitely seems out of character.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, let me see here. I'm trying to run past this Tippit part of it. Now, when Oswald is arrested and the pistol is taken into evidence, okay, there's two different stories here. And we're talking about chain of evidence. Supposedly, story number one is that Gerald Hill gives T.L. Baker the pistol. The story most of us know is summarized in Gerald Hill's report. We remember that Oswald was arrested at the DPD by 2 p.m., yet Hill does not pass his pistol on to Baker until 3:15, and in some reports it's as late as 4 p.m. Now, in Hill's report, this is when witnesses involved in the transfer of suspected Tippit murder weapon from Hill's possession to T.L. Baker, and this is done in front of Fritz. But then we also have Officer Carroll, and he was one of the arresting officers in the theater, and he's actually in the picture of, the famous picture of Oswald being taken out the front of the theater, and he is actually holding the pistol in his right hand. Officer Carroll started to get into the car. He pulled a snub-nosed revolver from his belt and handed it to me. He stated that this was the suspect's gun and that he obtained it from Officer McDonald immediately after the gun was subdued. When the pistol was given to me, it was fully loaded, and one of the shells had a hammer mark on the primer. I retained this gun in my possession until approximately 3:15 Friday. In the presence of Officer Carroll McDonald, I turned the weapon over to Baker, and this is from Gerald Hill. Now, it says he marked the side of the casing on all the shells that were turned over to Baker at the time, but yet if we go back and look at the shells that are in the National Archives, we don't see Gerald Hill's marks on them. So that's interesting.
Now, do they, because there's one thing I can contribute to this, because I know as where I'm more Carcano centered, you know more about the pistol. Were all of the bullets recovered according to the National Archives? Did they have 6 bullets?
Well,
they only have 4.
Yeah, we'll get to that because there's a problem with that as well. It appears that one of the Western cartridges and one of the Winchesters are not included in what actually makes it to the FBI. Maybe.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's one of the few, like I said, one of the few things I've come across related to the bullets for the pistol was that, they were given 3 Remington Peters and 1 Winchester Western, and there were still 2 other bullets that weren't accounted for, even in 64.
Right, yeah. So it seems to me that I think probably the DPD might have kept one of each of them, maybe, or who knows. Now, there is another story given to us by Paul Bentley, who is, of course, the cigar-chomping guy, detective that we see in the famous picture of Oswald being taken out of the front of the theater with a shit-eating grin on his face because they just got their man. And what he says is this. Bentley says that the pistol was initialed by me and turned over to Lieutenant Baker and Captain Fritz by Sergeant Hill. So supposedly he initialed the pistol, but not the ammo. So from what we can tell so far, this pistol is supposedly supposed to be covered in initials from Gerald Hill, McDonald, Bentley, Carroll, and Baker. Supposedly all put their initials on this pistol. And at the time the pistol was released to Baker, McDonald, Carroll, and I had marked it for identification purposes. And in the presence of McDonald and Carroll, I marked the side of the casing on all the shells, which were also turned over to Detective Baker at the same time. Now, there's also another guy who was supposed to initial these shells, officer, I think his name is Poe, and this was at the Tippit crime scene, and this is on the shells. And guess what?
None of the initials are there.
Yes, that's right. At the National Archives, none of these initials are there, and he actually couldn't identify them for the Warren Commission because he couldn't find his initials on the shells, the holes. So there's a problem.
One that seems to dog a lot of these official investigations.
Yeah.
That somehow the evidence has been switched out or misplaced or just entirely destroyed.
Yeah. So I mean, is there this much ineptitude in this department, or is something else going on here? And like I said before, David has a picture in his article showing these bizarre markings on the actual bullets from, where it appears that they had been in a bullet holder, a bullet belt. They're just pieces of leather, that you put bullets in so they don't fall out. And if they're left in there long enough, they're going to leave some kind of a mark, because leather, of course, absorbs moisture, and things that get dirty, dirt goes in there and gets rubbed around them, and sure enough, if you look at the I think it's CE 592 538 special cartridges found in the pocket of Lee Harvey Oswald after his arrest, they all bear markings of being held in a ammo belt, which Oswald, I don't think, owned, or at least they didn't find one, did they?
No, I've never heard of anyone finding an ammunition belt.
No, me either.
And you would think from 2 different types of cartridges that he was rather slapdash in planning. Once again, meaning we know he had very little time to plan for either of these things. With Tippit, I've always, I don't think necessarily that he is definitively guilty of the murder of Tippit, but at least they have more evidence. I think that in comparison to JFK, it's a hell of a better case, but it's still not a good case.
Right. All right, I found that it was this was released to Vincent Drain, FBI, on 11/28 at 10 p.m. 5 live, 38 caliber Western special shells, initialed EB, were found in the left front pocket of Lee Harvey Oswald. I believe those are from Earl Boyd, who found them in his pocket right before the show up. And then we have 4 live 38 caliber shells, initialed Hill, 2 Western and 2 RP special, removed from gun of Oswald at the time of arrest. and I repeat, 4, okay, supposedly were given to FBI and recovered from the gun of Oswald at the time of the arrest, when he was supposedly had 6 in his gun at the time of the arrest. The 4 Halls, RP, SPL, and 2 initialed RD, 1 Western initialed, and 1 Western found by Virginia Davis. So this stuff's all over the place. It's a gigantic mess. I mean, there's clearly no chain of evidence here worth anything. Never would have stood up in a court of law at all. It's a shit show. It's basically what it is. And of course, none of Oswald's fingerprints are found on any of these halls or live ammunition, Carmine.
Which is problematic because he had to load the gun. Yeah. And why would he put on gloves to load the gun and not keep them on to use it?
Right. What always stood out to me is if, and I don't think he did, but if Oswald is the one that shot Tippit, okay, there was all kind of eyewitnesses around that saw him do this, okay? You got, I can't even run through all the Tippit witnesses to whoever shot Tippit. You got Markham, Benavides,
Bowley, I believe.
Yeah, the cab driver, Scoggins, and I mean, you got all these witnesses who supposedly saw Lee Harvey Oswald, and of course, he would have known that people saw him shoot Tippit. Okay, that if there's, he's running people saying "poor dumb cop" or something, he knows people saw him. So if you know people saw you do something, why are you going to deny that you did it? When there's 10 people saying you did, and they all saw you, you know what I mean? It makes no sense. But there we have it.
Unfortunately, once again, though, there's a lot of them were at a distance. Not to say that like I said, I think that conspiracy is feasible based on a substantial amount of evidence, but it's also feasible that he is in some ways guilty. I don't think that Oswald's completely innocent. So whether or not he could have been one of 2 men that's a couple witnesses that they saw.
Yeah, I mean, I think
he still could have been involved, but it doesn't mean that he masterminded or did this as a lone person. Right.
I mean, but I think there's indications that he was at the theater, either at the time or before Tippit was even being killed.
No, the timeline is totally screwed up. I mean, you got, and when we've talked to people, they've said that it was just the watches at the hospital, which is possible, but even you have none of the times line up where what they said Tippit's time of death was. Like, they had him being dead when the commission thought that he was being shot, and they had him at the hospital when people thought that he hadn't even left the scene yet. I mean, this ambulance had to be right there. Picked him up, didn't do any of the normal things that normally you would do to see if he's alive or, resuscitation or something, and just he was gone, according to the various forms that all disagree with each other.
Well, yeah. I mean, you had to have the guy that you radio the police and say, tell them what happened, and they would have to call the ambulance, and then the ambulance would have to, the guys would have to get ready and get out there in the car and then drive there, and I mean, and I think it was somebody that might have looked like Oswald.
Which is possible too, yeah.
Because we have here an interesting little tidbit. When Mr. Ball, Joseph Ball, is questioning Officer Nick McDonald, he asked him this. He said, there is one thing I have marked on Exhibit 520. The document referred to was marked Commission Exhibit 520 for identification and received in evidence. As he said, he had not seen Oswald since, referring to McDonald. And I know this was taken, I think Exhibit 520 was just a picture of Oswald. Ball says, I would like to ask him one question with reference to 520 for identification, and we will later provide an proper identification for it. Officer McDonald, does that look like the man you arrested in the Texas theater that day? And McDonald said, yes, sir. And I think the wording of that is interesting, as David pointed out. Is that the man you arrested at the theater is not asked. It's, does that look like the man you arrested in the theater that day?
Yeah, it's not as specific.
It's legalese. It's an open-ended question. It's not.
It's sort of like the stuff that Spectre did at some points, like when asking even the Bethesda doctors regarding the single bullet theory and why it's improbable. Both Fink and Hume disagreed and said that it was improbable that was the bullet that did all that damage because it was in nearly perfect condition.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you had them twisting whenever it would shy away from what the commission's conclusions were. You have them trying to twist the witness testimony back towards what they need.
Yeah, I mean, why would he say, does this look like the man you arrested? Why not say, is this the man you arrested? You know, it's an odd question that, you know, left McDonald wiggle room where he didn't have to actually lie, you know, but he's just answering the question honestly. Then McDonald says he didn't mark it initially. He marked it at the police station and turned it over because supposedly when Oswald was arrested, okay, we have this Officer McDonald who is apparently, some kind of super cop, okay, because we have him managing to stick the webbing between his thumb and forefinger in between the hammer and the firing pin of this pistol, right, Carmine?
Supposedly. Yes, that is what was claimed.
He is very ninja-like. And
apparently, he's very dexterous.
Yeah, but before this, when they were, creeping in the theater, and they hadn't, apparently McDonald was playing this game where he was pretending to be checking out these other patrons, but he had his eye on Oswald the whole time, and then just kind of rushed over to him and said, "All right, get up, put your hands up." And then Oswald said something to the effect of, "It's all over now," and took a swing at McDonald. And then they got to scuffling, and he performs his ninja-like maneuver with the weapon, and it's recovered, and that whole story. So apparently McDonald's this great super cop, which I don't know if I can believe. And then we have, of course, reports from two other cops that somebody was arrested in the balcony of the theater, not on the floor. And I don't know, how stupid you would have to be to mistake a balcony for the floor of the theater, or whether somebody else was, in fact, arrested in the balcony, and while Oswald was being arrested on the floor. But then you also have Butch Burroughs and Bernard Hare, two other witnesses who claim that somebody else who looked like Oswald was taken out the back door of the theater after Oswald was arrested out the front. So these are all very, very odd claims and something you have to account for. These guys have nothing to gain by making this story up. Why would they make this story up,
Well, I think it depends. I agree that, in a lot of cases, the witnesses don't have any good reason to just create something. But, like with the case of the Mauser, you've got these people, these brush with greatness, or these, the brush with history moments where they just want to create a myth out of everything to be about them and, sort of take away the focus from the case.
Right.
Yeah, I think that a lot of witnesses are credible. They got overlooked. Plus, you're talking about how imprecise their methods were. Let's look at Dealey Plaza for 1 second, just the number of witnesses. There could have been over 600 people there, and they don't even have half of that in the commission report. Most of the witnesses weren't even questioned. A large chunk of them, anyway.
Yeah, or called before the Warren Commission. Like the Newmans, it's not like they were hiding. They were on TV, right after it happened, giving their names, saying, yeah, we were right there. We saw this, we saw that. And, but yeah, now let's get back to the pistol here, because here's story number 2. Okay. Gerald Hill claims at 3:15 he gave the suspect's pistol to T.L. Baker, with witnesses who do not corroborate a receipt, which does not corroborate, and a crime scene report, which does not include the pistol the evidence suggests was handed to him. Officer Davenport of the Traffic Division tells us at 3:30 Captain Fritz asked officers to take the pistol to Captain Dowdy along with 3 live shells. So let's see here. So that would lead us to say, okay, well, what happened to Hill giving the pistol to T.L. Baker after McDonald, Baker, Hill, Bentley, and Carroll mark it around 4 p.m.? So we have another inconsistency. Then we have Vincent Drain, given by Davenport, 138 Smith & Wesson, snub nose, serial number 510210, and an illegible number of shells. It looks like 3. 3 shells. And this is by R.A. Davenport. Signature of person receiving specimen was Barnes and Dowdy. Signed by Vincent Drain. So, Officer Barnes' testimony does not touch upon the evidence presented above and in fact contradicts it. When Beelan is asking Barnes at the Warren Commission, did you have anything to do with identifying either the slugs that were eventually removed from Officer Tippit's body or the pistol? No, Barnes says. Beelan says, what did you do when you returned to City Hall? Barnes said, we started working out the evidence and developing negatives of all the photos that were taken at the Kennedy assassination site and also at the Tippit site. Beelan, who were you working with at the time? Barnes, we had just about all the manpower of the crime scene search section working day, myself, Studebaker, Hicks, Livingston. Beelan, did you know about what time of day you were doing this? Barnes says, we started on, I would say, roughly after I returned to the City Hall. It was getting close to 4 o'clock. So we have a problem with this timeline, Carmine, exactly when this pistol was entered into evidence. Some people say as late as 4:30. Some people say as early as 3:15 or 3:30. So we have all these contradictions about who was handling it, when it went into evidence, when it was given to the FBI, and problem after problem after problem. Not to mention, Carmine, weren't the FBI and CIA supposedly watching Oswald's mail?
Oh yeah, we have documents that prove that you had Oswald under observation by the CIA under H.T. Lingual, which was their mail observation. The FBI was observing him for years. They actually observed him up until October is when Hoover canceled the security flash. And you even had his aunt, Lillian Moret, informing the FBI about Oswald before the assassination.
Yeah, I mean, and I like the way David calls this. He calls it closed loop corroboration of key item of evidence. For example, the evidence does not support Oswald ordering or paying for the pistol. There's a lack of COD and shipping charges charged to Oswald for the delivery of the pistol. The lack of a postcard informing Hidell of a delivery, which in turn would not be left in Oswald's box. That does not name Hidell as an authorized recipient to have mail shipped there. Any evidence that this pistol existed while Oswald supposedly lived at Neely Street, and the lack of a chain of custody which can be corroborated, one that proves the theater pistol is the evidence pistol. All of which concludes or leads him to conclude that the pistol, the ammo, the shells, and evidence is the conspiracy to frame Oswald, who could not possibly have been on the scene and at a theater simultaneously.
Yeah, there's a lot of the timeline itself too. I think that's a lot of people attribute, some sort of consistency to these exhibits that isn't really there. If they don't have a chain of evidence, if they can't prove where the bullets were, why the FBI got less bullets than they were supposed to, why 2 of the bullets were never seemingly recovered, at least according to the FBI in 64, or why the bullets have initials, they don't have initials, the current ones don't have initials, but there were initials. That means we have evidence tampering.
Yeah, and right here, I found it. It says he stated that, now this is about Officer Poe, stated that he had received 2 similar cartridge cases on November 22nd from Domingo Benavides at Dallas, Texas, and had on the same date given them to Pete Barnes from the crime lab. He stated he recalled marking these cases before giving them to Barnes, but he stated that after a thorough examination of the 4 cartridges shown to him on June 12, 1964, he cannot locate his marks. Therefore, he cannot positively identify any of these cartridges as being the same ones he received from Benavides. So, big shocker there.
And once again, as soon as, anything could have been done in the time between where the initial ones were found and those later were, and what explains the problem with they vanished as if a bullet was switched out.
Yeah, well, I mean, which makes sense. As many shots as were going off in there, and if of course you believe the autopsy findings that there was another gun present, at least one other gun in the pantry, firing from behind Kennedy.
More bad police work, basically, in both of these connected cases.
Yeah, or purposeful cover-up in both cases.
Exactly.
So there you have it, folks. You have the messed up stories of the supposed Hidell weapons, why they possibly could have been linked to Oswald, even though he could have walked into any gun store in Texas and bought what he wanted without having to show identification or anything else, and probably gotten it cheaper. We got no way to prove that Oswald obtained ammunition for either of these weapons at any point, any time. At least the pistol to me seems, and the type of pistol that they sent him was actually used by a lot of police departments. So there you have that as well. I mean, it seems to me, and I'm not so much sure that, I'm sure it's still used by some cops today, but a lot of cops used to carry what they call burner guns. And these are guns that would be planted on, suspects that maybe they killed that didn't actually have a weapon, and you know what I'm saying?
Wanted to fix things up so everything looked nice.
Yeah, he can say, "Oh, well, he had a gun. He tried to shoot me, so I shot him first." They'd have a couple of these guns that they carry with them and plant them on different people, or just plant them in general if they wanted to frame somebody up to try to get information, while they're shaking them down. Oh, look at this pistol we found in your back pocket here, stuff like that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, at least, for me, that some of these live rounds that Oswald was carrying actually were in an ammo belt at some point in time, which cops used. It was a type of gun that cops used, different from what he had originally ordered, supposedly. So it's a big mess, Carmine. Both weapons.
Yeah, both the weapons I think definitely have deficient evidence, backing up the assertions that are later made on them. And, that's, I think, the problem with a lot of the entire case, is that because it was lower, the only reason the commission was able to have any oomph behind its declarations was because there were lower legal standards. And under criminal standards, this case would have fallen apart. Too many mistakes were made by too many officials, and now, we've proven that suppression occurred and obstruction of justice occurred. Whether or not it has to do with covering up, or whether or not it has to do with just, the most idiotic series of mistakes added to people actually trying to cover up other illegal things they were doing.
Right. When it comes to ordering the weapons, obtaining the weapons after delivery, ammo for the weapons, there's problems at every turn, in chain of custody.
It's lack of practice.
Yeah, it's lack of practicing with the weapons. There's no indication he ever shot with a handgun or a rifle anywhere. Because it's not like, he would have been proficient in the use of a handgun. There's no indication they train you for that in the Marine Corps. No indication that you carried a pistol in the Marine Corps. And from whoever shot Tippit knew what the hell they were doing. I mean, they shot him 3 times in the chest and once in the head after he was down. So that's coming from somebody who knows exactly what they're doing with a pistol, I would think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I also think that people don't ever attribute to that, besides all of the practice and everything, how about the lack of him being a cold-blooded killer? Oswald seemingly reverts from this. He was politically outspoken, but when it came down to it, Oswald wasn't someone who got into fights. Oswald wasn't somebody who could just cold-bloodedly murder, and these are two very different things. It's one thing to shoot from a distance when you think you're safe and you're hidden, and then it's another, as you just said, to get up close and to do cold-blooded murder just a couple of feet away. And I'm not convinced that Oswald necessarily was the kind of person that could have done both of those divergent things in so short a time of, a span of time.
Yeah, I'm not either. Going from somebody who liked to argue politics and discuss politics, even with people that didn't agree with him, to jump from that to, like you said, murder, and not just murder, execution. I mean, it's a giant leap for me.
Yeah, and not to say that, if he was going to, people might say that it's spur of the moment, but if Oswald was going, let's say that just for a moment, which I think is improbable and I don't think is the case, but if he was the person that shot at President Kennedy, then it's a lot different than go and just execute Tippit. He could have shot him in the legs. He could have shot him, in a number of places other than just executing him.
Yeah, well, I think
this is a person that did not want to be identified, that needed to get away quickly, and was willing to murder someone. And like I said, I'm not convinced that it's the same, that Oswald was like that.
Yeah, well, I think the three shots to the chest would have done it, but he was, he walked around and shot one in the head to make sure. That's shit hitman do.
Yeah.
That's what they call the money shot. I mean, that's
yeah, when you want to be sure that the person, there's no chance that they survived.
Yeah, and it's for that to happen. I mean, there's no indication that Oswald was ever like that. I mean, if he was, and he supposedly carried this pistol on him, he probably would have shot Brignier when he got up in his face in the street. But no, he just stood there and took it, and was arrested. And
and if he had planned this out, he likely would have had the pistol with him. He wouldn't have wasted time and having a chance of encountering someone like Tippit to go back for the pistol. And then he doesn't ever try to escape. He just moves around downtown Dallas.
Yeah, and
there were no initial roadblocks. The way was clear. There were train stations, there were cars. You could have stolen a car. Any number of things. Like, what I thought was crazy is after he shot Tippit, why didn't he then take the police car? No one's going to check a police car for at least a little while with all the mayhem going on. He could have got out of town. Why didn't he do that?
Yeah, or why was he even going that way anyway on foot? He had a bus transfer he had in his pocket, supposedly. He could have had a getaway car set up, which if he was smart he would have done and just got the hell out of there. But no, we have, like you said, all these inconsistencies. It's like the perfect storm to pin all this on Lee Oswald.
Which, as we know, lines up with, and not to say, like I said, I think it was a small group. It could have even been a rogue member or a former member, but a lot of this lines up with the 1954 Guatemala documents when the agency wrote the Handbook on Assassination. There's supposed to be one guy, one person that doesn't know about the rest of the organization, that only has one person keeping contact with him, and it's good if he's a political radical, to give motivation to why he might have done these things, and then everything gets pinned on him. That's how you do a successful intelligence operation. Yeah,
I mean, we know that a lot of people wanted Kennedy dead. A lot of people talked about wanting Kennedy dead back then. But one person is all you would need to set up the hit, to contact the other assassin and, to make sure that they were the only ones that knew who it was. Like everybody that wanted him dead didn't necessarily have to know who it was that was killing him.
True. And that's probably likely the case. It's going to be a small group, and it's going to be a group that could have vanished. And as for the assassins, I wouldn't claim to know exactly how it happened, but I would assume they died quickly after. That whoever had set up the operation would want to eliminate them, because chances are, if they were allowed to live, someone would either make them talk or they would talk.
Yeah, but you have to look at it like this too, Carmine. If the people they got to do this were badass enough to pull this off and do it, they knew the risk, and they knew that might happen. So these guys likely went, either stone cold silent or disappeared, or because I know if I was hired to do that and I did it, then I would make sure I got my money up front, and I would disappear, and you would never see me again. because I would know that somebody's going to silence me because I know who hired me. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, and that's, it's, and like you were saying even before too, is that most people even associated. I mean, the people who could have funded such an action probably didn't have any concept of what the operation was, who was involved. They just sent the money to whatever account, and that was it.
Yep, plausible deniability.
It doesn't have to be the big, elaborate thing that some people try to make it.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking about this. I hope we enlighten some people today. And
yeah, it's always a pleasure to come out and talk to you, Rob.
Hey, my pleasure. I love it when you come on here. People love it too. And for more, head to NEAMG, NEAMG.com.
Yep.
And TPAC.com, TPAAK.com for the book. And head over to the TLGpodcast.com, where I'll post links to all the documents that we talked about today. And that's it for this one, people. See you next week with Mr. Chuck O'Celli is on the show. That's it for this one. I'm beaming this sumbitch up the satellite down directly to your ears, people. This is your boy. Peace.
At the sky, my mind starts tripping, a tear drops my eye, my body temperature falls, I'm shaking and they breaking, trying to save the dough, pumping on my chest and I'm screaming, I stop breathing, damn I see demons, dear God I wonder can you save me, I can't die, my boo-boo's about to have my baby, I think it's too late for praying, hold up, her voice spoke to me and it slowly started saying,
bring your lifestyle to me, I'll make it better.
and how long will I live?
Eternal life and forever.
Or will I be the G that I was?
I make your life better than you can imagine or even dreamed of. So relax your soul, let me take control. Close your eyes, my soul.
My eyes are closed. Murder was the case that they gave me. 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 I'm fresh up out my coma. I got my mama and my daddy and my homies in my corner. It's gonna take a miracle, ain't safe for me to walk again and talk again. But anyway, I get fronted some keys to get back on my feet. And everything that nigga said came to reality. Living like a baller low, I'm having money and blowing hella chronic smoke. I bought my mama a Benz, my boo-boo a Jag, and now I'm rolling in the 9-tris AL Dog Ray.
Just remember who changed your mind, cause when you start set tripping, that ass is mine,
Indeed,
nigga.
agree, proceed to smoke weed. Never have a want, never have a need. They say I'm greedy, but I still want more, cause my eyes want to journey some more. Really though.
Check it out.
I pray the Lord, my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord, my soul
Murder was the case that they gave me.
Murder was the case that they gave me. Murder was the case that they gave me. No more endo, gin and juice. I'm on my way to Chino, rolling on the Grey Goose, shackled from head to toe. 25 with the Exile, with nowhere to get, so I know them niggas from the other side recognize my face, cause it's the OG, Digo double G, LBC. Man dogging niggas cause I don't care. Red jumpsuit with 2 braids in my hair. Niggas stare as I enter the center. They send me to a level 3 yard. That's where I stay late night. I hear toothbrushes scraping on the floor. Niggas getting they shanks just in case the war pops off. Cause you can't tell what's next. My little homie, baby boo, he took a pencil in his neck. And he probably won't make it to C22. I put that on my mama. I'm gonna ride for you, baby boo.